time and sharing your expertise with my students. I have a few questions. So the way that it's gonna happen today is I have some starter questions for Olivier. He's gonna share his knowledge with us, and then we'll open it up to your questions. I want to make this as valuable to you students as I possibly can. So please feel free to ask questions, and you can always put questions in the chat. Sometimes it's a little difficult for me to monitor questions in the chat when I am, dealing with an interview and multitasking, but we will definitely try to get your questions answered. So with no further ado, and is it Olivier? I took a little bit of French, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So Olivier Moingeon.
Almost.
What is it?
But Moingeon.
Moingeon.
Yeah, it's very complicated. Even French people cannot pronounce it. So
Moingeon, Olivier Moingeon.
It's a very strange name from Burgundy.
I love it. I love to be able to. We should chat in French someday when we meet in person. I can test it out. So I'm going to toss it right over to you. Please feel free. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself. I have told the students all about you, and they've gone through the entire quest, so they are familiar with the experience that you created. And I'd love to start off. Maybe talk to us about how you got started with immersive, a little bit about your background, and what you're currently doing.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I live in New York. I'm French, as you guessed. And I've been in New York for 20 years, out of which I spent 18 years in the luxury industry. That's really my background. I worked at Cartier for 11 years, where I was in charge of a lot of different jobs and different divisions in retail. And then I was commercial director at Cartier. Then I left and I became president of Goyard, which is a really cool French luxury brand. So I opened Goyard in the Americas, North and South America. And then I was CEO of Bastide. It's a French beauty brand owned by Frédéric Fécaille. Maybe some of you know who he is. He's a quite famous beauty guru and hairstylist. So yeah, 18 years, French luxury brands, always based in New York. And then 2 years ago, with my associates, I co-founded Exclusible. So I took a complete turn in my career and decided to leave the corporate world behind. And I, started my entrepreneurial journey in Web3 at a time so it was June 2021. At that time, Facebook was still called Facebook. NFTs just started becoming mainstream, with a lot of people thinking that it was just a bubble, just like crypto, and that it would burst. We barely spoke about metaverse back then. So when we started working on building Exclusible, our original idea was to be the Net-a-Porter or the Farfetch of NFTs. So a marketplace allowing brands, especially luxury brands, to sell NFTs. So it was actually very interesting. We started pitching the idea to brands and to investors. So we spent the summer of 2021 on some type of roadshow, like talking to so many different investors and brands, and we actually raised money. We raised 2.2 million euros at the end of the summer, so August 2021. That's when we all officially joined and kicked off Exclusible, put the company together, started hiring people, and we started building the product, the marketplace. Okay, and then so that was summer of 2021, heart of the bull market. So the first 8 months, I want to say, were extremely good for us. We launched 17 NFT collections, both for us, but also for brands. We generated, I think, $10 million of GMV, which was about like $6 million net profit. So we launched Hogan, which is part of Todd's group, Christophe, Christian Lacroix, Asprey, Bugatti, Alpine. I mean, we did like a lot of brands. So we gained a lot of experience. But then June 2022, bear market. So everything stops, everything crashes, crypto, NFT market, financial markets. There's a very bad global macroeconomical context also. So that's when we started switching toward, not switching, but diversifying our services. And that's when we started doing metaverse and also switching gears on NFT side. So instead of selling NFTs, we're advocating for distributing NFTs for free. So now we are this, so in a year and a half, we became this extremely complex company where not only we know how to sell NFTs, we have a marketplace, but we also acquired a studio based in the US, in Texas, a 3D studio specialized in building metaverse experiences across platforms. And also, now we have that whole concept of distributing NFTs for loyalty, CRM, marketing, community building. So a lot of different use cases around Web3.
I love it. Thank you so much for that introduction. And it's a perfect segue. So my students, for many of them, this is their first course for sure in XR and Web3. And so they're a lot of what I'm teaching them is trying its definitions and really understanding what's what. And as you know, probably if I ask 10 different people, I might get 10 different definitions for NFTs in the metaverse, Olivier. So how do you define NFT and an NFT and the metaverse? What's your definition of those two things?
Sure. So NFT, it's purely technology that allows to register a file on the blockchain. You can have NFTs on different blockchains. Those files can be a lot of different formats. It could be a video, a photo, a PDF, it can be anything. What it means, why is it important? It allows for the first time to have digital ownership. So for the first time, you can actually own something, you can own a digital asset, and there is no confusion about, or no doubt about who created the file, who owns the file. And then it's registered on the blockchain, therefore it's part of a discoverable public ledger.
And what's the blockchain?
Okay, so blockchain, the first blockchain was Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin is a revolution. And I encourage everyone to read the Bitcoin paper, the white paper. I think it's only 7 pages. And to also read all the email exchanges between Satoshi, the mystery founder of Bitcoin, and the community of cryptographers around the world when he first told them that he invented this, he came up with this concept of Bitcoin. Fascinating exchanges, and it will allow you guys to understand really well the philosophy of Bitcoin. So a blockchain, it's nothing else than thousands of computers around the world which don't know each other. And those computers create a chain, a network, and the network receives a transaction, and 51% of them have to approve the transaction. And they don't know each other, there's no consensus, they don't talk to each other. So it's a decentralized network. And when the transaction is validated by the network, it gets registered on a block. And that block takes data, the name of the block takes data from the previous one, and so on and so on. So it creates a chain of blocks. Without getting technical, the nature of the blockchain is such that it's impossible to hack the blockchain. And because every block is linked to the other, invalidating one block means that the whole chain becomes invalidated. Therefore, it's a revolutionary technology, which is, as we say, like decentralized, trustless. So as opposed to a bank. So when you put money in your bank, it's a centralized institution based on trust. You trust the bank to keep your money and to give it to you when you need it. Whereas here, the network is it's not based on trust. It's purely an algorithm that runs in perpetuity.
That's awesome. And it's really easy to get really technical really fast. We can
Yes.
get down the rabbit hole. So NFT, that was awesome. That was a great definition of NFT. So now the metaverse, how do you define the metaverse?
Yeah, so that one is complicated, as weird as it sounds, because it should be easy. But it's complicated because there's a lot of misunderstanding and myth around the metaverse. My own definition of a metaverse today, it's nothing else, nothing more than a 3D immersive experience, which is multiplayer and could be, but doesn't have to be, Web3 based, meaning attached to a blockchain, and therefore make it decentralized. A lot of people have a vision of the metaverse, which is more philosophical, where the metaverse becomes this immersive space where everyone can go and influence the environment. So your data is decentralized, you own your data, no one else owns it. You can take your assets in and out of that metaverse. You can influence the metaverse itself, the environment. You can change things around. But anyway, we're not there yet. I think we could argue that social media are some type of metaverse, from TikTok to Instagram, because it's a digital network where we interact, we socialize. Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft are definitely metaverse, in my opinion, and they are absolutely not Web3. They are completely Web2. Especially Roblox and Roblox and Fortnite absolutely refuse to use NFTs, but you can achieve the same thing with internal currency and also skins, like buying and trading skins. And then when it comes to the definition of the metaverse, I also like the idea of AR. So with AR glasses coming up soon, we're going to add this digital layer to our experience of the physical world. And I think I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's really, really exciting.
Yes, and next week, spoiler alert, is AR week, everybody. So that's also perfect to keep in mind. This is Metaverse week, Olivier, and next week is AR week. So that's great. Thank you for that. And I'll just, so you and I definitely disagree on the definition of metaverse. What I think what you call metaverse, I call a virtual world.
Yes, 100%. Right? Yes, totally.
So I believe in it. I just, for me, it's like the universe versus the planets kind of. So, and I told the students lots of differing opinions on this, and lots of the media sometimes doesn't quite get it right either. Like they're struggling to understand it as well. So beautiful. So I think we've set some good groundwork. Let's talk. So this is specifically a strategic communications course about how companies are leveraging this type of amazing technology, with their people, with their audiences. So talk to me, and that's your position so well to talk to us about this, because you have worked with these. I mean, I would argue that these luxury brands are so protective of their brand, because that's, so much of the equity in the company is all about the brand. And so talk to us about how you are seeing companies effectively use the technology today, Olivier.
Yes, so it's very interesting to see that a lot of luxury brands have actually tapped into Web3 and metaverse and NFT technology, which is surprising because they came very late to the e-commerce party. Chanel still doesn't have an e-commerce website for their fashion. Goyard, zero website, zero e-commerce. It's against their philosophy.
Wow.
And so a lot of brands actually accelerated their technological deployment during COVID. It was the, come to Jesus realization that they were lagging behind. Yeah, they had no choice. They also missed the boat somehow on the resale economy back in like 2010. Secondhand, the real, Rent the Runway, Like they realized that, and so now they are kind of slowly going, like considering that market a little bit differently. I think it's a $60 billion market, the secondhand, and based on brand equity, built on brand equity. So they are interested now in like recapturing some of that market. When it comes to Web3, they were the first ones to move, surprisingly. Initially, the first year, so 2021, early 2022, so during the bull market, the idea was to sell NFTs. Really like, hey, how can we generate money from NFTs? Because it was the most used application of NFTs at the time, even though brands are, especially the top ones, you think about your LVMH, Kering, and Richmond Group brands, they don't need to make more money. And they are very specific about that. Like Dior doesn't need to add money by selling NFTs. They need to do things the right way. But the fact that they were looking at the technology, for me, it was a signal that they were looking at it from a cultural point of view. NFTs are linked to art and culture. And it's going to be the next big wave of inspiration for brands, just like streetwear has been for the past, 10 years, something. So that's why we see more and more collaborations between traditional brands collaborating with Web3 native projects. NFT world, like the ethos of Web3, it's really about art, about counterculture. And because it's this, and there's a lot of talent, like creative talent at the core, it's actually setting the tone for what culture is. I think the space became really interesting. The audience became very interesting as well, with crypto millionaires, who are a cohort that has never been considered seriously by brands, whereas you could onboard new clients. But that was during the bull market. Then what I like about now, 2023, we're in the heart of the bear market. It's more strategic. The approach is much more strategic and long term about what can we do with immersive spaces to bring a new creativity, capture an audience. What can we do with NFTs what are the applications of NFTs that will help us create more engagement, longer engagement, better sense of community, So now we have better brainstorming sessions, or a more strategic approach, which is much more interesting than a year ago when it was just about selling collections. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was perfect. And I think one of the things that the students struggle with, and we'll get to the specific Hugo Boss example, and that's actually great. But I did just want to double click on one thing. So when you say, when I think of a fashion brand like LaCroix or Chanel, whomever, selling an NFT, like what's the value of owning a digital piece of art, fashion? Like, explain the value prop for the person buying that, and what were they hoping to position that as?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the real use case has not happened yet.
Yeah, right.
The real use case, what will come for sure, or at least that's my prediction, and that's the reason why I went into Web3, is that in this decade, by the next, in the next 5 years or so, every brand in the world will sell digital fashion, digital assets. So from H&M and Zara has already done it, actually. They started this concept 2-3 months ago. From Gucci to Zara, people will be able to buy physical products, just like they do today on the website, but also digital products, which we call wearables. It's going to be a seamless checkout experience. Most likely, these digital assets will be blockchain based. They will be NFTs, so that there is an element of scarcity. It can be one of one or one of 10,000, but it's limited number. And therefore the need for blockchain and therefore NFT technology. And these assets will be what we call interoperable. So you could buy a Gucci sneakers or Gucci jacket and then choose where you want to wear it. If you want to wear it in Roblox, it cannot be an NFT because Roblox is not blockchain based. So it's just a file. You could wear it maybe as a Snapchat filter. Again, not blockchain based because it's completely open. You could wear it for your Ready Player Me avatar, and then it can become blockchain based. So you have all these different applications, but that vision for me is it will happen. It's an absolute certainty because for two reasons. First of all, it's a new revenue stream. It's a new way to monetize products. Those products cost you absolutely nothing. I think the gross margin is probably close to like 98%, 99%. You solve a lot of problems around sustainability.
Yeah, you do.
You can participate in identity. So, is it better to drive a Ferrari around the block and like 10 people see you, or to own a CryptoPunk and then thousands of people? You can signal your status to like thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yes.
I love it. So when you say Zara is already doing this, so are you telling me that, so when do they have collections where if I went into Zara and bought an item that I would also get a digital item that's exactly like that item?
It's almost that. So they had a collection where you had the physical product and then you had the digital version that was not an exact replica. It was more like the creative, dreamy replica side of that.
Even better. Even better.
Yeah, it's even better. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I love that so much. And then, but to your, and so that's, yeah, I mean, I completely believe in your vision, Olivier. You and I are so aligned on where this is going and the value. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And it's really, really exciting to hear you talking about it. But I also wanted the students to be very mindful as we are working on a real project this term, and we're working, our client are the Oscars, and they're trying to, have a younger audience find the brand relevant. And, so many of the younger kids aren't watching the Oscars these days. They couldn't care less about the Oscars. So there's a nice challenge there, but this, just really trying to make sure that we understand, is this really ready for, prime time with every brand? No, right? I mean, in fact, you told me during the last time we talked that you don't recommend necessarily that brands do it. So maybe chat a little bit about that.
I do not recommend that brands sell NFTs because at the moment, the people who are going to buy NFTs from brands are the standard Web3 audience. It's people who are already used to buying NFTs, standard Web3 people. And it comes at a cost. You maybe capture a new audience, but that audience, these people are going to hold you accountable for the performance of the NFT. And because it's blockchain based, there is what we call the floor price. And it's a metric that you can look at every single second. It's always there. You can see how much the secondary market, how much the market values that NFT. And so if people, it's a financial transaction. We make it sound like it's community and it's amazing, but the reality of that transaction is financial. And it's very visible because you can see the performance. It's like as if you buy a stock of LVMH and you're in Discord or on Twitter with the LVMH corporate division or like investors relationship, and they are trying to build a community around you. And you're talking to them every day. Like it's a very strange relationship. So some brands can do that. Some brands can afford to build communities where the first inception was financial. The reality of it, of course, there's a lot of storytelling and sugarcoating, but it is a financial transaction to begin with. You buy an asset. We've done it many times. We've done it 17 times. And a year and a half later, the people who bought your NFTs are asking, I mean, the people who bought NFTs from the brands that we launched are asking, okay, so now what?
Yeah, right.
Like, what's next? You know.
So let's talk. So the perfect segue. Let's talk a little bit about Hugo Boss in spatial,
Yes.
and let's talk about that project. So if you could you? So we, as you know, we all went in as a group, and we had so much fun getting that daggone suit, which now I really want to buy. And I was telling the students like, you know, I'm going through my white era, if you will, and like, so having it be a white suit, I'm like, I so want this white suit, and it's spring, and anyway, I could go on and on,
cool.
but it's a little out of a professor's budget, to be honest. I'm like, it's too expensive, I can't afford it. But anyway, you know, talk to us, give us kind of a little bit of the background of how this project kind of, you know, really trying to focus on what was the strategy. Let's talk through the strategy, because I'm really trying to teach the students to be strategic, Olivier. So maybe
yeah, absolutely. So actually, since then, we announced yesterday officially that we also built the internal metaverse of Coty. So Coty, it's a big beauty group. You have L'Oreal and Estée Lauder, and then Coty.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's another fantastic use case that I can talk about. Hugo Boss, so they have been our clients since the summer, something like that. But we only worked on internal projects with them so far. And then when they did their fashion show in Miami in March, early March, they came to us with the idea like, hey, we have could you build this in the metaverse in like 6 or 7 weeks? And so we said yes. And they basically used AI to recreate, to create the first mood boards, like to generate a very creative, dreamy version of the fashion show that they did in Miami.
Oh my God.
Or that they planned. Okay,
so
then
what AI tool did they use? Did they use Midjourney?
Midjourney, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then my team, my studio, took those mood boards or AI generated vision and converting them into a space. They started building the 3D. We do have a video that I'm going to post on LinkedIn soon showing how we went from AI to 3D in spatial, and how the human touch is very important, where you go from the AI and then you see what that looks like in 3D, remastered, texturized by a 3D designer. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I love that. Please, is that going to be an article or?
Yeah, we will post on, it's going to be an article on our website, and we're going to post, we have the video on LinkedIn somewhere.
Okay, I need to keep my eyes open for that.
I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so Hugo Boss, for them, it was more of a test. Okay, they didn't have great expectations for it, but they wanted to, also it was in the back of Metaverse Fashion Week. So they felt, why not, their fashion show in Miami had a lot of really positive coverage. They did something really, really cool. So then we launched, and it's very interesting because we launched, 3 weeks ago, something like that.
It's only been live 3 weeks. Woo!
Yes.
Oh, it's so new. It's hot off the press.
Yes. And so far they have had 21,000 visitors who on average spent 9 minutes in the environment. So it's very interesting from a strategic point of view, or like marketing point of view. For me, Web3 and the metaverse are new marketing channels. Okay, it's something new that every marketing team across the globe has to add to their stack. It's added to your channels. The problem we have at the moment is that there are no metrics established for that channel. What is the measure of success? What good looks like? So if you compare to Instagram, for example, or TikTok, you post something, millions of views, thousands of likes. So you have your engagement metrics right there. If you look at 21,000 users in spatial for the Hugo Boss experience, it feels very low compared to other social media. But I think it's not fair. And I think we need to establish new metrics for the metaverse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can argue that it's a gigantic opportunity for brands to have someone for 9 minutes immersed in your environment, in your world, in your environment.
Yeah.
You can shape that environment any way you want. You can,
Yeah.
from content to gamification to avatars to, education, whatever you want to, creativity, storytelling. So then it's really for you as a brand to be creative enough, ambitious enough to maximize those 9 minutes when you're going to be face to face with someone. And that someone also probably will have other people around them. That's what's cool about the metaverse, is like it becomes like it's very social. You have other people, you can chat, you can talk to them, So the brand in that way becomes also almost like a facilitator of social interactions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when you look at it, also we are in this era, from the 4 Ps to the 4 Cs, marketing wise. One of the new C is community, and also micro communities. So the concept of the idea of having 21,000 people highly engaged who spend a lot of time is actually probably much more valuable than having 1 million views with like 2% engagement rate on Instagram.
Well, there's a hard metric. Talk to me about sales. Do they care? I mean, they definitely linked it up. They tried really hard to link it up.
Yes.
Granted, there was some friction there, as you probably know.
Yes,
but you were able to click over and make a purchase. Are they, how is that looking, or are they tracking that?
Yes, I don't have metrics. It was not one of their objectives, but it's very easy to add the URL, link out to the e-commerce page. That's the native way of doing it. A lot of people completed the quest. I don't remember. I don't have the number exactly in mind, but a lot of people completed the quest, collected the digital, like they have the suit that you all got. But in e-commerce wise, I don't have the numbers. My prediction is that it's very low.
Yeah. And that's great. It's lovely to hear that the brand, that somehow they were able to get this through without that being a metric, right? I mean, if we think about other brands or other companies may have worked with varying leaderships that had varying appetites for that type of engagement over product purchase, kind of depends on where your leadership sits and such. But I think with this, I would argue that with this new emerging technology, you have to have the right leadership in place that understands that this is innovation, that understands, this isn't about selling suits at this point. It's about doing something very, very different.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that some of you, if not all of you, have maybe been to the Hugo Boss website for the first time. Or maybe you didn't know. Yes. Maybe, sure. I think it helps. For me, all of this, it's more of top of the funnel type of activation, especially if we talk about Roblox, then we, like bigger video game platforms where it allows to tell a story to an audience that has not necessarily heard the story or paid attention to whatever content you served them on Insta or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever. Here, the gamification element is important. It's immersive. It feels new. It feels fresh. It feels more intimate as well. You know that there are not like millions of people. But you're absolutely right. What we have seen so far is that you need strong champions and leaders at the helm of these companies to really make a change. And that's what happened with Coty. So we've been in touch with Coty for 1.5 years, and the team that's leading this project, they are true Web3 enthusiasts. They collect NFTs, they go to the conferences. They are like deep in Web3. So they know the space very well, which means that they didn't make a lot of the mistakes that other brands have made. And they approached it the right way by saying, one, there is no FOMO. Do not rush into doing something that could be stupid or unnecessary. do things the right way, take the time, and de-risk the market entry into the metaverse of or Web3. And so the project we announced this morning is that we have been building the internal metaverse of Coty. It's called Coty Campus, and it's going to be for their thousands of employees around the world.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's really cool. And we added, so it's going to be for product presentation, town hall meetings, brand presentation, company education. So you read about the heritage of each brand, the story of Coty. And then we gamified the experience where they go on quests and they collect badges around the experience. And then they get different levels of rewards or benefits thanks to that.
Olivier, let's go sell that into Intel. What do you say?
Yeah, I would love
It'd
to.
be perfect. They need it. They should do. I mean, they're a brand that, they're positioned to really walk their talk.
Yes.
So
I'm
would be, let's do some biz dev. Let's do some biz dev. I would love it. So what are you, I have two questions, and so the first one I hope will be a quick one. So when you say internal, did you build that on a proprietary, or did you use the framework of some already existing metaverse platform like Spatial?
We built on Spatial.
Oh, you did, and you gated it.
Yes. Yeah, but it's gated. Exactly. It's only accessible for employees.
I love that. So you guys, and that's just an important distinction that I'm trying to teach the students, that you've got, platforms where there's foot traffic, like a Roblox where it's open and people go, and there's like millions of users on Roblox, and there's lots of different worlds. And just like we kind of jumped around on Spatial, I'd call that like an open playground. And then within that framework of Spatial, they also have these walled gardens or these private spaces that a company like Olivier's company can build for this company that's private. And so I just think that, and a very different use case, like nobody's going to stumble, and hopefully no one's going to stumble upon and accidentally find, this private walled garden versus, do you want the foot traffic? And I would argue that obviously with Hugo Boss, right? Hugo Boss wanted the foot traffic. They built it in a place where people could come. That's what they wanted. So that's a strategic decision that us as strategists need to really understand to help our clients navigate that question. Like, do we make it an open, or do we make it a walled garden? And so I just think that that's important to know. And not every platform allows you to white label it in that way, or to build on it. There are many platforms that are less generous, if you will, or less collaborative. So that's another thing to consider. So here's my second question, and maybe even more important. So based upon everything, so I'm going to try to draw a line between the Oscars and Hugo Boss here. So with Hugo Boss, and everybody just remember, that sales weren't the objective here. Let's just be very clear. However, if we think about the end user, and I try to, me with my marketing hat, try to okay, the average age on Spatial and the average age of these, could they afford an $800 suit or, $2,000 awesome trench coat that I also wanted that was way out of my budget? And yes, I totally agree with you that you have a new audience to tell this story to that haven't heard it, and I couldn't agree more. But are you telling that story to an audience that has either the capability to lean in and care right now? And the parallel I'll make, Olivier, is if we think about the Oscars, and this is a question that we have, if I think, okay, awesome, the Oscars need to tell their story to a whole new audience and make it relevant to them, because right now they're losing relevancy with youngins. So if we're well, great, why don't they build, the Oscars maybe builds a game in Roblox because they're going to have the foot traffic. But here's the thing, they're selling a 3-hour broadcast uninteractive award show that the kids don't care about. You know what I'm saying? So it's the product isn't there to necessarily. So how do you deal with that? How, when there's a disconnect maybe between what you're offering at the end of this thing. Does that make sense, the question?
Yeah. No, it makes sense. So for me, it's about the attention. We are in the attention economy. So when Gucci or Alo Yoga have their world in Roblox, they monetize, but that's not the primary objective. The primary objective is that they have, I think Gucci has at all times 400 players in the experience.
Wow, that's crazy.
They have 40 million views, which are equivalent to 40 million people have visited the experience. The experience is heavily gamified. It's token gated. um,
Mhm.
to access the parts that are that are gated, not token gated. You have to go on the Gucci website, get a code, enter it on Roblox, and then you can access a special shop where you can buy skins for your avatar, and your avatar, even though it's Roblox, looks really good. It's not like blocky at
Oh
all.
my God, I'm gonna do that right now,
Yeah, it's
tonight.
really, really nice. And they make, depending on the arrangement, but they can make like 70% of the sales, you know.
That's amazing.
So
Wow.
Gucci and a lot of other brands in Roblox, it's what I call top of the funnel, attention building. You capture a new audience. I always say you capture the heart before you capture the wallet.
That's so
But
true.
the objective, of course, is to capture the wallet you want, but you're hoping the strategy is long term. You're hoping that by exposing your brand to these younger players, when down the road, a few years later, at some point, they will allocate a share of their wallet to your brand.
Yeah.
You know, so it's long-term building. Tommy Hilfiger has a fantastic experience in Roblox. It's really cool. That's why it's more about customer acquisition rather than LTV, like long-term value.
Mhm.
And that's the whole point, is that once you capture someone, you have them in your they make their first purchase, you get them in your database. Over time, your job as a brand and your sales associates in the stores is to upsell. You keep making them, you stay with them, they stay with you for the rest of their life. And as they go through life and hopefully make more money and increase their high net worth, whatever, you can upsell them. But if you capture them in that early stages, when not a lot of brands, it's quite a blue ocean opportunity. Not a lot of brands are on Roblox. So when you are Vans or Nike or Timberland or Walmart, even in Roblox, Alo Yoga, and you can create these moments, these interactions, I'm sure it will pay off in a few years.
Mhm.
You're building today your client of tomorrow. When it comes to the Oscar, with your question,
Yeah.
I think that's a tricky one. Again, if we use the same principle, attention and gamification. The surprising thing is that it's probably one of the most exciting categories, movies. So it's content, and it's highly entertaining content, and there is content for everyone. But the format of the event is extremely boring. I think that's the equation to solve. And therefore, if you can find a way to repackage the content in an immersive experience, which is gamified, surprising as well, with rewards and benefits, like quests that will unlock some type of benefits, I think already that's more interesting.
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant. I'm taking notes because this is so good. And I'll watch again. I think that's exactly right. I love that answer. Everybody hear that? Make a note of that, teams, because I think that's really going to be a strategic direction we might want to consider.
There is one activation that you can all look at. It's Pepsi and Wakanda Forever. They've created an immersive experience, gamified and based on content, behind the scene content. It's WebGL based. It's not like a true metaverse or virtual experience, immersive experience. There's no avatar. It's like on rails. Like you cannot choose where you go. But it's an interesting take on content and marketing activation around a movie.
And does that live right now? Is that where does that live? Is that like its own web micro hub kind of a thing?
Yes.
I would love to
I
have the
think
students
it's
check
off
it
of
out.
Pepsi.
Okay, like the
I
Pepsi
can't find
website.
it. I don't
Oh,
have the
I
site.
can try and find it too, but that's great.
Mm.
Great, students, questions. We've gotten through my questions. I'm going to open it up. We've got about 10 minutes of Olivier's time left here. So who has questions that they'd like to ask Olivier? Don't be shy.
questions.
It takes them a while to warm up.
I'm curious to know if all of you guys play Fortnite or Roblox. Like, are you playing some type of video games?
No, the short answer is no. We've got Chris. We've got one gamer in the class, believe it or not, Olivier. Of the 17 or however many students, 15, we've got one. So
Okay.
Most of my students have never been in a 3D environment before. They've maybe been in one or two, but definitely a very, very light touch, and they don't use it regularly.
So you see, that's very interesting because I do that type of talks often between France or NYU here in New York. And it's always the same thing.
Really?
No, the number of people, technically you guys are supposed to be the target audience of all these immersive, all these brands when they go into immersive experiences or even Web3, like, hey, we're going to cater to a younger audience, Gen Z, whatever. Age group 20, more or less like 20, 25, something like this.
None of them. I know none of them.
And then every time I do a talk about the metaverse Web3, there's always like one person who actually is a degen and like Web3 enthusiast and collector and knows everything about NFTs. Degen is the word, just so you know, it's the word that we use that they use to basically signal that they are NFT collectors.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case you didn't know.
Well, I'm gonna, since no one's asking you, let me just ask you a hardball question then. And sorry to, but I'm this is my own question, and I'm gonna. So, and you probably know this, but we had, I don't know, 12, 15 students go through the Hugo Boss experience.
Mm-hmm.
Of that, we had two. So we had two users who were unable to get the NFT. Like they tried and they tried and they tried. I tried to help them. It was just there was some problem between Ready Player Me talking to spatial. It's still kind of buggy, right? I mean, it's not bad. 80% of the students got it, but then those poor two students that still don't have their suit, they're kind of like, feeling left out. So did you talk to me about that a little bit? Maybe just some of the some of the challenges. I mean, I think that just indicates the challenges when this is so nascent, right? We run into these types of things where the user experience isn't perfect. Maybe talk about that.
Yes, just the standard phrase, it's we're early, it's early. And so we're building all these connections between different platforms, first of all, which did not, Ready Player Me launched 2 years ago. Spatial during the pandemic was an alternative to Zoom. And then it's fairly new. It's been like a year and a half that they actually decided to pivot to the metaverse. So you have a lot right now, like the whole space is a little bit clunky space, like Web3, a lot of friction, a lot of barriers to entry, especially on the NFT side with like wallets, crypto securities, like it's really crazy. But it will only improve over time, And so, yes, for all these experiences, you have to have a good computer, not with spatial, but Decentraland or Sandbox, for example. You cannot access those if you don't have a good computer. And then sometimes the journey, like do these, go there, go to your email, confirm, come back, open the wallet. Like it gets a bit tricky sometimes, yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Chris, I see you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
I have kind of a weird question. So you mentioned a lot about kind of how like this new form of interactive marketing is kind of still in its infancy, and you're really trying to generate the hype around it and like capture like, especially like I mentioned with Hugo Boss, you mentioned kind of like the secondary and resale markets and all that. And with like NFTs and stuff, this, I guess it's kind of weird, but like with respect to like handing out these free ones for now, do you think is there like, or has this been considered kind of like jumpstarting that sort of hype and resale market by like giving people like choices in those free NFTs when they do the challenge or gamifications, and then like if they wanted more, they'd have to resell or like trade and all that?
Good question.
So yeah, that was not part of the Hugo Boss project. especially because those skins, those wearables are hard to resell. But we did something like this with Alpine. It's a French Formula One and luxury car brand. We distributed 1,500 NFTs for free. We also sold 2 tiers of NFTs differently. And those 2 collections for sale were linked to some type of utilities. One of the utility was you can drive a Formula One on a circuit, on a racetrack. And that one went for like $30,000,
Wow.
something like that. Yeah. The collection
A real
for free,
racetrack, right? A real racetrack, to be clear.
yes.
Not a
Yes.
virtual one.
No. Otherwise, that would be quite expensive.
Yeah, all right.
But the 1,500 NFTs that we distributed for free, we had a wait list of like 9,000, 10,000 people. They were, in 3 minutes, everybody claimed the 1,500 NFTs and then started selling them on the secondary market. So I think, I haven't checked in a long time, but I think just on secondary market alone, that free NFT has generated like 45 ETH of volume, out of which Alpine, the brand, gets 5%.
Wow.
In that case, yes, from free, it became also like generated some money. Nothing that's gonna make or break a company, but that's interesting in terms of like self-funding a project.
And I would argue that with a brand like Alpine, who is, that crypto millionaire demographic is kind of the right one. You have to be kind of rich to get a car. So, I think that might be part of the reason where that kind of worked, because it was the right brand with maybe the right audience.
Yes. And now, like, I just got an email an hour ago about doing something with the person who actually bought that unique NFT that gives you the ability to drive the Formula One. And as you said, it's like high net worth individual. Now he's working on some stuff with the brand directly. So that's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's super. It's again, I just want to point out to the students that it comes back to that strategy, which I always have my strategic worksheet. What's the objective? What are you trying to do? Who's the target audience? And so just keeping that in mind, target audience is so important when we think about strategy and understanding who they are and all of that. Well, I want to be mindful of Olivier's time. We have 2 minutes. Are there any other hot questions from students? Last chance, everybody. Anyone want to share with Olivier directly what you thought of the experience? I was telling my students this was an amazing market research. I was like, holy cow, like I'm normally, Olivier, doing all these things alone. I'm just like a team of one. Like it was so amazing to have them all watch them all go through it. It was just like, I don't know, it was amazing market research. I'm like, this is like really showing me all the things. So giving me all the feels. Does anybody want to share? Otherwise, I'm going to let Olivier share his final thoughts with us.
Question.
Yes, Catherine, love it.
Wondering, the experience was so cool. How long does it take for someone to like build that virtual world, and like how many people does it take to create something like that, and who is really like the creative person behind it saying this is how I want it to type thing?
Yes, very good question. So we have a 3D studio in Texas. They have 20 employees, from 3D designers to artists, and then it's based on video game engines, Unity, Unreal Engine, the Roblox engine, things like that, voxel builders for Sandbox. So Hugo Boss, it took 41 days, which is much shorter than what we usually need. We need usually 8 weeks. So here we did it in 41 days. The creative team of Hugo Boss was involved. Then talking to our designers on the studio side to come up with like solidify the mood board. And then you go from mood board to schematics to then starting building the white shell. And then you bring textures, like finishing touches. That's usually the process. So 41 days.
That's so fast. And talk to, where does the strategist sit? So if we think about, this group, their team, their, strategic communications, I would see sort of similar to what my role might be in something like this would be to drive the strategy. Where did the strategist sit on the brand side, Olivier, or were you the strategist, or where did the strategist sit?
So the strategist was on Exclusible side. So my side, I have a project manager orchestrating everything and talking to the brand almost every day about what can we do to make this experience cool, and other things, like we're working on other projects with them as well. Yeah.
So it sounds like it was probably a true, like as the best projects are, a true collaboration between the brand and really understanding their objectives, and really you have to understand that brand inside out, and then having someone who understands the technology and on the Exclusible side, and having those two strategists come together to really build something that's effective. And that's awesome. Catherine, did that answer your question? That was a great question.
It did.
Catherine is in my campaigns class, and she's actually the project manager so you're setting yourself up, girl. You're setting yourself up.
Right.
Awesome. All right. Well, Olivier, I'm going to let you give any final thoughts. Feel whatever you feel like you'd like to share as a wrap up here. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no, I can only encourage you to be curious about that new space, which is both Web3 and the metaverse, immersive experiences. Because even though it's early right now, everybody is looking at it. And the vision that I described earlier, where like every brand is going to distribute and sell digital assets, I have confirmation from brands that we are all going towards this future. And so it's a competitive edge from a student point of view, like because you're going to start your career very soon, and you will have to make choices and be also market yourself. So understanding this space could allow you to join the teams brand side, which are leading that type of efforts. And right now, those teams are being formed. And what I notice, again, coming with like 18 years of experience in the space, what I notice is that those teams are very young because no one else knows.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm a unicorn. I'm old, and I know. I'm really old. So there's that. Oh, that's such amazing insight. And I'm so happy that someone else other than me is telling the students this. I can say it so many times, but it's nice to have it validated with a true pro who's out there in the industry, Olivier. And you and I will definitely meet up. I'll make it to New York, or if you come out west, I would love to thank you. And your time. We really appreciate it. This has been extremely valuable for the students. And I will follow up if you are interested. I have the recorded version that, of course, you are welcome to use however you like. And I will follow up. If there are any other follow-up questions, feel free to pass them to me, and I can send them over to Olivier. And thank you so much. Yay. Sure. Big round of applause. Yay.
Thank you so much for your time. That was very nice. And good luck to everyone.
Thank you, Olivier. Have an awesome rest of your day.
You too.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao. Bye.
All right.